Alright guys, so I have a few things I want to talk about today. Instead of talking about just answering questions, like what's the difference between MRE and MRE Light, I figured like yesterday, I would talk about some actual subjects, because I think maybe I could provide more value to you guys by talking about my systems of beliefs and how they work for me. And maybe you could apply some of the things that I've learned over my life that have helped me achieve success in business and in life in general. Certainly not the most successful guy by any means, but I'm doing pretty good. And I think a lot of the stuff that I've learned along the way, I can easily convey to you guys while I'm doing cardio. So that's what I'm going to try to do now, off and on, depending on the amount of energy or the amount of interest you guys have in hearing me talk about stuff related to life and business, lessons and stuff that I've learned along the way, versus strictly talking about Redcon 1 supplements, which I have no problem doing, and I've had a lot of fun doing that with you guys and talking to you about which product is best or how to meet your goals faster. But ultimately, what I'm really passionate about is business in general and self-improvement. So there's some things that I've done and that I've learned along the way that have been invaluable lessons. Some of them came at a cost. So I don't mind hitting up, Louis Marco's on. What's up, Louis? I feel like Louis would appreciate this. Louis has probably heard enough about and knows enough about how to take RPG, but he might not know my beliefs on visualization or on the power of making a decision. And those are the two things I'm going to talk about today. Thank you, Peter. Peter says he's addicted to MRE. So with that in mind, I'd like you guys on here who are watching, or the people that watch later, we have about 1,000 people that watch these a day after the fact. Not that many people watch live. Yesterday we had a bunch, but generally we don't have that many watching live. So what I'd like you guys to do, who are watching now and who end up watch later, think of topics that you'd like to hear me discuss, like the ones I'm talking about today, and email me, ceo@redcon1.com, and I will take those requests into consideration, and in the future I'll talk about what you guys want to hear. So with that in mind, the first thing I want to talk about is the making a decision. So good morning, Shannon. So decisions are rare. You find many people go their whole lives without truly making many decisions. I think decision comes from the Latin root of incision, or to remove. Because when you make a decision, you remove all doubt and you have truly decided something with certainty. And that's where the issues come for most people. I'm going to use myself as an example. Some of you know, some of you don't know, that I have had quite a bit of addiction problems. I was addicted to intravenous heroin injections for a lot of my adult life, and then intravenous cocaine. And I don't talk about it too much because it's not really important for supplements or the business. But whenever I do talk about that, people are usually shocked. Not too many people know me from that period of time. So like even my wife, she didn't know that Aaron at all. And so a lot of people said, when I do talk about it, did you go to rehab? Did you do a 12-step program? How many meetings did you go to? All that stuff. And those things all work, by the way. But I didn't do any of that. Because very early on, I understood the power of a real decision. And one day, things went so bad in my life that I hit a bottom, right? And that bottom allowed me to truly understand and to make a real decision. And I went from old Aaron to new Aaron right away. And how that happened was I made a decision that I would not do heroin. I wouldn't do cocaine anymore. Now, here's the interesting thing. The people that I know that have addiction problems, or that had addiction problems, or that passed away from addiction problems, is because they never really made a decision. Even the ones that quit, in their mind, they said, I'm not going to do this heroin anymore, but there might come a day where I could do a little bit, right? Maybe there's a day in the future where I could do a little cocaine. And maybe I could go out with my friends and I could probably do a little drugs here and there. Maybe I could do ecstasy. Maybe I can smoke weed, right? And one thing leads to another, because the truth of the matter is they never really made a decision in the first place. They just said they're going to wait a while and see how it plays out. Somebody, for example, trying to lose weight. Here I am. I've lost 25 pounds in a little over 8 weeks now. How did I do that? I just made a decision. So instead of putting food that I would like to eat into my mouth, I put the food that's planned to eat into my mouth. Now, is that hard? No. Not if you really make a decision, because then it's already done. You've already decided. Now, that sounds simple, but the truth is that most people decide to do the diet for a little while, decide to see how it goes, et cetera, so on and so forth. So my suggestion to people out there, you guys watching, is examine what you want in your life. Think about your game plan, how to get there. And when you're ready, make a real decision. That's why I'm using diet as an example. I don't like when people say, okay, I'm going to start the diet now. Or I'm going to start the diet tomorrow even. Because for most people, you need time to make that decision. It's not instantaneous, not a real decision, and certainly not for most people. The other thing about a decision is once you decide, you can't doubt. You have to head straight on, straight forward, no questions. Put on your blinders and go. People that look to the left and to the right often change their mind. So one of the things that I'm good at is I don't let any distractions come in front of me. And sometimes it's not always a good thing, because sometimes distractions, what you would call distractions, are part of life. But if you want to achieve anything truly special, a level of obsession is required. And that same part of obsession is part of decision, because there will be temptations along the way. So I want you to ask yourself, what have you truly decided in your life? What do you want to decide? And then what's stopping you? And once you make that decision and decide what you really want, fucking go after it, man. Go after it. Okay. Think that was pretty good, Waro?
Yeah.
He wasn't even listening, this guy. He needs to make a decision to listen.
Timer.
He's doing hard cardio, so.
Make a decision to be at level 8 on Stairmaster for 30 minutes.
Level 8 for 30 minutes.
It's a hard decision.
That is a hard decision. Don't quit, though. If you decided, you need to finish it out.
You got 40 seconds.
I'll talk one other thing about decision. Habits. So, habits is literally one of the most important things you can establish. Good habits. And quitting is a habit. So like you'll notice, or Waro's noticed, I will not get off the cardio equipment 1 second early, because that to me is quitting. And if you establish a habit of quitting, then you're fucked. Because it's always easier to quit. There's always a temptation to quit. Everything you do that's hard, you're going to want to quit. There's plenty of times. Are you done? 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
Jeez.
Then dry off and then
Yeah, you're very wet.
very wet.
So, dude, I ordered the Stairmaster. I own the Stairmaster. Look. Check this thing out. Boom. That's what Eduardo was doing. So, that's my my sermon on
Sermons.
sermons. That's pretty good. Sounds a little too religious for me, but so the other one I want to talk about was visualization. There's two actually good things. One thing that I love is the story that everybody tells themselves, right? Everybody is the hero of their own story, and I think, thank you, Warda. That's an important thing. So, number one, I think in your own story in your head, you need to be realistic with yourself. I think too many people think that they're the best, or that they're always right. And you're not realistic. You can't pull yourself out of yourself. And as a result of having this unrealistic story about yourself, you may do things and treat people in a way that you regret because you're the hero of your own story, right? So, but then on the flip side of the story, you also do need to believe in yourself. And in your story, whether you have proven it by your actions so far, you do need to believe that you're capable. And in your story, in your head, you have to know that you're going to succeed. That is something that I guess I think I'm one of the best at that. Because in my head, now I know I'm not always right. I certainly know other people have better ideas than me all the time. That's why I have such a great team. But I always believe in the end I'm going to win. So I don't have self-doubt. And maybe I should even have more. But I have very, very little self-doubt. And when I want to do something, when we plan, I make a very fast decision to do it. And I don't allow myself to sit back and think, damn, this may not work. This may be a bad idea. And then count all the ways that I could be wrong potentially. And that we could lose. I just don't think about those things. I just assume. I make the assumption that we're going to crush it. And then we do. Not every single time, but almost every time we do. And that's because you have confidence. So I think there's a twofold thing here with your own story, right? You want confidence that you're going to succeed. You want to believe, to know, intuitively, to feel it's going to work out. Because if you do, that's part of the visualization thing, if you believe it in your head, in your heart, that it's going to work out and you're going to do it, you will. But on the flip side, you can't be unrealistic. You think you're the best, you're always right, and that, if things don't work out, everybody's treating you unfairly. You have to take responsibility for the fact that you're probably not the best at everything. You probably need people around you who are honest with you. And I make sure to do that, no matter what. Jay Maggie says, thoughts become things, Kyrene says. Kai and I have read the same books. There's a book called A Man Thinketh. It's a pretty short book, but I know that's what Kai based, all of his thoughts on, his original thoughts. And As a Man Thinketh basically talks about visualization with power of the mind, and basically it's saying, as a man thinketh, he is, right? So if you believe you're going to be successful, if you're going to believe that you're going to create something special, if you believe you're going to win, you're going to achieve, then you will. And if you don't, then you won't. And that's how Kai's thoughts become things actually came to be. It's because he thinks things, he believes them, he feels them internally, and then he manifests them into the world, right? And that is and they call it The Secret now. That's the book out there, Laws of Attraction, Rules of Attraction. But it really all started off with that book, As a Man Thinketh. Because the power of the mind is an incredible thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger used to spend time in the mirror every morning imagining what his muscles were going to look like. This is from a young boy. He would do all his poses. He would close his eyes and imagine. And he was constantly visualizing what he wanted to achieve. Same thing with becoming a movie star, becoming a politician, becoming a millionaire, and who knows, a billionaire. So a lot of that he credits to visualization. And visualizing is a powerful thing. spend a few minutes every day thinking about what you want to achieve that day, and then even more, what you want to achieve that month, that year, things that you want in your life that you don't have. Very, very, very important to achieving it. You have to have a game plan, but you also have to have an image of that happening, in my opinion. So at Redcon, we focus a lot on number goals. I do, at least. We talk about them a lot, where we want to get to, how we're going to do it, what's the game plan, and then we think about them a lot. We visualize them. I literally sit there and look at the back end of Shopify and think, man, when it says this number, it's going to be great. And I have a video on my phone, one day I'll post. Towards the beginning of Redcon, we had this big goal. Should I say what the number was? I guess it doesn't matter at this point, right? So the goal was to hit $1 million in sales for the month. This is long ago. And within the first year of the business going. And we're watching and waiting, and we've been thinking about it all month. And we knew this was going to be the month. And towards the very end of the month, everybody's crowding around the Shopify back end to see it hit that $1 million. And when it hit it, we popped bottles of champagne. People were dancing around, hugging. It was the coolest thing ever. Thank God I recorded it all on my phone. And I was so excited. We were literally jumping up and down. And it wasn't because that number means anything in the scheme of things. It's just a number. Yeah, it's a big round number. And it was so cool to see it on the screen that we achieved this number. Because, it sounds like a lot. Now, obviously, when you think about what does it really mean, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Because the cost of doing business is going up. Adding more employees, the cost of goods, the cost of advertising. I certainly didn't make anywhere remotely close to that. But it didn't matter. It was a goal that we set our minds on. Everybody focused all their energy on. We watched it. We cultivated it. We visualized. And then we achieved it. And everybody was, yeah, popping bottles and excited. And what a great feeling. Now, if we didn't have that goal, that number, so deep in the front of our minds for that month, would we have hit it? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it would have been as important. I don't think it would have been something where it would have been a celebration and excitement like that. And so, as soon as we hit that goal, we celebrated. You know what I did?
Found a new one.
Found a new goal. And now we have another one that we're shooting for. And we've been shooting for a while. And when we hit that one, you damn better believe I'm going to video it. We're going to pop bottles. And we're going to celebrate it all over again. Because that is part of success. You have to have goals. You have to have a game plan. Know where you're going. And I believe you have to visualize. Because that has worked so well for me over the, I don't know how many years I've been doing it, but been in business. It's been something I always believed. When my life was going really bad, but I had gotten off the drugs, so it was going better. I say really bad. It was going bad compared to where I'm at now. But compared to where I was at my low point, I was doing really good. Good enough to sit down and write a list of goals. And I put it on a piece of paper, and I folded it up, and I put it in my wallet. And some of the goals were very reasonable, And then some of the goals were not possibly achievable, where I didn't think it was going to ever happen. Like, I'll give you some good ones. Have an article in a magazine about me. For somebody who's a drug addict who has no money, or it was like a recovering drug addict or whatever, living in a $500 a month apartment, barely paying the bills on my own, to have an article written about me seemed unrealistic. I said, one of them, meet Joe Eater. How are you going to meet Joe Eater? Had a lot of interesting ones. Have $100,000 in the bank. I didn't even have $1,000. Buy a home. Buy a Ferrari. These are things that seemed so crazy. But I put in my wallet. I actually had one that I achieved by chance, which is have my image 50 feet tall on a billboard, which was crazy. It was like one of the ones that never happened, and that ended up happening too. So I had this list, and there was about half that were reasonable or semi-reasonable, and half that were crazy. And every day I would look at this list, sometimes 10 times a day, and think about how close I'd get, right? And then one day I checked them all off. I don't carry that list anymore. So, just goes to show you, anything is possible. There's no limitations. I'm not any smarter than you guys out there. And I didn't start off with any kind of extra special anything. Certainly no money or connections. I didn't have any advantages. I just worked my ass off and I never quit. And that's something that everybody can do. So, with that in mind, I'm going to end this thing, call it a day. I hope you got something out of it. Obviously very different than I normally do. And, I'm going to try to do another one of these every day, or at least we'll go back and forth, right? From the Singerman sermon, or whatever you want to call it, to answering questions. I did see a lot of great questions about products and other stuff. So thank you guys for tuning in. I got 7 minutes left, but I want to end this one, keep it concise. Thanks, guys. See you next time, tomorrow.